Welcome to the White Sox REKAP Podcast. I am Ryan McGuffey. Well, the first week of the regular season is in the books, and the White Sox are in first place. I laugh because the 2-4 White Sox are in first place as we tape this, but the entire division, in essence, is in first place because the entire AL Central is 2-4. But what are the takeaways? What's to like? What's not to like? Are we seeing signs? I'd say yes. We are seeing signs that things are going to be different under Will Venable than the managers that preceded him because the look has been different. The feel has been different. The wins and losses aside, those are still going to pile up. Brian Anderson and I are going to talk about our impressions of the first week of the season, the starters going out and dominating through 28 innings around the entire rotation. And we'll get into the offense a little bit because there's been signs there too. What's to like? What needs to change? It's 1 week. It's the overreaction edition of the White Sox REKAP Podcast with me, Ryan McGuffey, and Brian Anderson. And it starts right now. All right, BA. The first place White Sox after 6 games. I laugh. I mentioned it in the intro because there are things that they've certainly done that look like a first place team, and then there's things that obviously need to change. And I got a soundbite in here I want to play in a little bit from Will Venable. But your early impressions a week in, because look, let's be honest, what they did from a starting staff surprised everyone, including those coast to coast in Major League Baseball. I mean, you're talking about doing things that only 3 other teams in the history of the game did. 28 innings, scoreless innings pitch streak for the 5 starters first turn through the rotation was pretty likable. So what are your first impressions of the 2025 White Sox?
Those 28 innings, man, that remind you of anything? That 05 team in the playoffs, man. But yeah, I think, again, we talked about keeping that team, the momentum, and that, having that culture stay strong throughout the year. And let me tell you, it's tough when your team is pitching it like that and you're not able to put up any runs on the board to just win 5-1 or win 3-1, 3-0, right? But when you're getting beat 1-0, 1-0, those are really tough pills to swallow, especially early in the season. Pitchers are trying to figure it out. The defense makes mistakes. A lot of those hitters have a tendency to get off to a hot start and really kind of get into some fastballs out over the plate. So when you're not able to put up runs early in the year, it can be really tough to deal with as a pitching staff. Yeah, I mean,
you said it right there. No margin for error, and that's kind of how this team right now is built from a talent perspective. At least on opening day. I've been saying, let's talk a Memorial Day, and obviously we will. I don't expect some of the faces that are currently on the roster to be here. I expect that there to be change. We talked a lot about some of the guys who didn't make the cut. Look at what's going on in Charlotte. I'll get into that in a little bit. Like, they're scoring runs in bunches down there. And I just think you just have that feel that some of these guys, and some of them are minor league deal type guys, that you, A, expect change, B, want change because you want the guys, the kids down there pushing the envelope to get up here. And maybe the margin for error changes a little bit because you go back to last weekend, bad taste in your mouth after losing the series to the Angels. So much momentum. It was important for the White Sox to win the home opener like they did because of all of the stench and stink from this team and the organization a year ago. To go out there and put up 8 runs, opening day, the home openers, it is different. Like, the energy is different. The tradition's different. People go regardless of what to expect. And I thought winning 8-1 on opening day was way more important than winning 8-1 in game 2 or 3. But the way they lost games 2 and 3, you're talking about a wild pitch in the 8th inning where a guy goes first to third and an infield single by Yoan Moncada is the only run in the game. The fact that you give up, I think they gave up 5 runs over the weekend and lost 2 of those games. So the margin for error is little to none, and it hurts when you pitch like the way they've been pitching. Offensively, it looks different because they've had some lopsided games. They had a 9-run game. They had an 8-run game. They've been shut out. They had a 1-run game. So they've come in bunches or it hasn't come at all. But I think that's kind of what you're going to see with this offense.
Yeah, I mean, early in the season, it's a crapshoot, right? You're looking for some more consistency throughout the year, especially as you get into May, June. The cream rises to the top, right? Those better offensive players are going to start cruising. They'll have some numbers as a nice benchmark to build up off of. But, man, I look at that and I go, my gosh, you try not to dwell too much on stats right away. I was notorious for getting off the slow starts. That cold weather and coming from Arizona to Chicago, I was always like, hey, the month of April is a wash. I seem to get like 20, 30 hits if I can imagine. But, yeah, man, it's tough. I looked at some of those batting averages, and I know it's a small sample size. You start going 25, 30 at-bats. It's rough to judge people. But, you ask yourself, you got one guy, hitting 250 or, 280 or whoever that may be. But then the next 5 guys, like 190, 180, 184. It's like, my gosh, guys, like 1 for 3 with the walk. It's not the toughest thing to do. I know I wasn't a great hitter on paper. I didn't put up numbers consistently, but you got to look to your core group of players like Benintendi, Robert, Andrew Vaughn. You got to look at them and say, guys, like you don't have to carry us, but we need you to be the kind of like the beacon of stability in this lineup. And when you're pitching it like you are, you got to find a way to scrape up, run together, get a walk, steal a base, bunt, right? Will Venable's great with the small ball stuff, but he's probably looking for, the saying, can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit, man. Like, give me something to work with. Somebody get on base so we can put something in motion.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the big names. Like Benintendi, he's had a great start. A couple of 3-run homers. He's hitting 333. He's got an OPS over 1,000. It's 10-10. But then the other guys, Luis Robert has a 455 OPS right now. He's hitting 190. Andrew Vaughn didn't have a hit. I think didn't have a hit until his last at bat in the first series.
Easy is my pick to click, dude. Relax.
Both of ours. And when he homered in that really cold game the other day, I was like, here we go. He's been hitting the ball hard. And you look, we're taping this as the White Sox get set for their first road trip of the year. And it's a 6-game sample set. You're talking about 20 at bats here, people. There's no reason to overreact. But you kind of look at their big group, the Benintendi, the Robert, Andrew Vaughn, and I'd probably put Miguel Vargas in that group because you're expecting him to take a step. He's also got an OPS of 530 and 190. So, look, I don't expect, and we've already seen Sean Burke a second time through the rotation. It didn't go as well. He was getting hit pretty hard. He gave up a few home runs. They're not going to have streaks where they go 28 innings of scoreless ball every time through the rotation. You're going to get great pitching and no offense. You're going to get decent pitching and some offense. You mentioned consistency. It's really what you're looking for here. I don't know if this team's built to be all that consistent offensively. There's some things I like about it, right? Here's one thing I like. They have 9 homers. That's 8th in all of baseball right now. This is a team, we've talked about lack of power. They've had no power for whatever reason for like 4 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if Nick Maton, I don't know if these guys are going to be, he's got 2 homers. I don't know if we're going to be seeing this type of offensive production from Austin Slater homers on opening day. But it's nice to see the ball traveling out of the ballpark from a lineup that struggles to score runs, because if you look at the game, the opener against the Twins, home runs with men on base, man, like ball go far, team go far. 3-run homer, 2-run homer. It's 8-0 that quick because guys are getting on base and guys are putting the ball out of the ballpark.
Yeah, sure. Especially in this weather, right? It's been pretty nasty last couple of times. We're dealing with some potential rain delays. Field's not always in great shape, even though the sod fathers, the best in the business, get the field ready. But again, you look at your core group of players, although be guys that probably haven't been like, the Cadercos and the Jermaine Dyes and whatnot, but they're that beacon of stability in the middle of the lineup. And you want them to have that consistency like Andrew Benintendi's having now, to when it starts to warm up May, June, July, ball really starts flying. You can't have those massive dips. You go from here to here, throughout the course of a season, and it's slow dips and here peaks and valleys, right? But to your point, you can't have those games where like one game is 9-1, then it's 1-0, and then it's 8-2. It's like, guys, like you can win ball games 3-1. You just can't hang goose eggs up there, especially early in the season.
A couple of stats I wanted to throw out there real quick before we move on. And I'm going to read a couple of comments from fans that tweeted you and I in the last day or so about their impressions of the season. So 9th in homers, they're 17th in OPS. That kind of shows you, they're getting the 17th ranking because of having such great power early in the season. But really, they're near the bottom and everything else. They're 6th in total team ERA at 2.83. Even with the Burke second start, they're 4th in all of baseball in starter ERA with a 2.18. Only the Rays are better. And they're 18th in bullpen ERA. The 18th in bullpen ERA, probably not going to change all that much because I think you're going to see a lot of interchangeable faces in that as they try to figure out. And Will Venable on opening day was even admitted, like, there's no defined roles right now. We're trying to figure out who the guys are on the fly and who fits in well. And the mentality of a back end of the bullpen. Like, it seems like it's Mike Clevenger's, but they've brought him in high leverage situations in the 8th. And I think that seemed to work right now.
We talked about that too with Clevenger last time, right? We're like, hey, it's be great to bring him in for the 3 outs in the 9th, but if they're playing well, if they're in a tight spot, even with 2 outs in the 7th, man, I'm going to my guy that I know is going to give us the best chance to win. We'll figure out the 9th after.
Here are some of the comments from fans, and this is what I want to transition into Will Venable a little bit here. Alex says, this is Sockside Irish 99. If there's ever been a Twitter handle invented,
that's not yours. I figured that was you. That was you tweeting yourself.
That's my burner account. I'm reading my burner account's tweet right now. Significant improvement over last year. It's still nowhere near a competitive ball club, but at least it's watchable. I've already thrown 5 on Venable for manager of the year, and I'm excited to see how the pitching staff develops, as well as the prospects getting called up. Francisco Barrios Burner, hitting needs help. Starters have been awesome, but bullpen lacks experience and depth, literally to exactly what we've said. Chi-Town Spidey, opening day was special. Seeing more homers from our guys off the bat is an improvement. Still 2-4 record doesn't bring me any hope. And all I'm seeing is Robert Jr. swinging and missing at almost every pitch. Should have won that Twin series, in my opinion. And lastly, this is just what Jer Bear wants. Watchable, but not even close to competable baseball. I would disagree slightly with that. Jerry doesn't want watchable and then teams going out and losing. I know I'm not going to go down the Jerry train right now. I don't think we're there.
That's a completely different podcast. Two podcasts, probably.
Different podcasts. But the collective, those are 4 examples of a collective voice saying there are things that are tangible that we can hang on to here, unlike the last 2 years, really, where it's just a shit show all the time. On the mound, in the field, at the plate, there are things that are looking and feeling a little bit different.
Sure. I think the energy is different too. It's early, but I think you had mentioned earlier, right? Like the White Sox are whatever, they're 18th in this particular category, right? And you go, if you and I were to replay that, 5 years from now, be like, man, that's when it's shitty. Because like, we're 18th. Yes. Right. It's like, usually it's like, try to get in the top 10 everywhere. But yeah, man, I mean, these fans, fans aren't stupid. The Southside fans, they know what time it is, man. And you start trying to tell them, hey, the sky's not blue, it's really red. They're not dumb. If they see a product on the field that's not competitive, they're going to let you know. But I feel like it is different, and it's human nature to go, they're 2-4. Okay, well, that's a prorated amount of 160 games, man. That's a lot better than last year. It's like, not if you start looking at it that way, you're screwed.
Well, I agree with you. What I look at is the team that's there now versus the team you expect to see in July versus the team you're going to see in September. If the team resembles anything from a 1 through 9 in September as it does now, there's been failure at the lower levels. But there hasn't been right now because Chase Mydroth is dying to get up here. That dude is just doing all the little here. Listen to this slash line. It's Charlotte. I know. Same deal. We're talking about small sample size, 5 games, 17 at bats. He's hitting 294. His on base percentage is 4 strikeouts, a couple of stolen bases, a couple of great defensive plays. Kyle Teal has already won an International Player of the Week award. He's got 9 ribbies, 2 bombs, 6 hits, a double, an OPS of 1093. And then Tim Elko's out there, your guy Tim Elko, out there hitting with a 976 OPS. Now, the flip side of that, Colson Montgomery's been awful. He's been absolutely awful. He's 1 for 20. The one is a homer. He's 15 strikeouts and 20 at bats. And that's
Is that
why
good?
he must be watching a lot of Rafael Devers video in Boston.
Well,
right now.
I'll tell you too. I remember getting pulled in the office in 05 before I got called up. Nick Leyva pulled me in. He said, "Listen, man, like you're hitting home runs, you're driving in runs and all that stuff, but you're striking out like 35% of your at bats." And I thought that was high. I was never like a high strikeout guy in college and stuff. I don't remember striking out too much in single A and all that. But you take that 35, 40% clip. You add it that second tier, that third tier in big league ballparks, like more fans, more the lights are brighter. That percentage tends to go up. So you got to be very careful with that. And I know that's gonna stuff like that's gonna prevent Montgomery from getting called up. They don't care if he strikes up, but it's got to be 1 for 4, 2 for 4 home run and a strikeout. You just can't have those double digit, or you just can't have multiple strikeouts in a game on a consistent basis because they'll keep you down there until you put the bat on the ball.
The good thing is, though, we're seeing it's not all about Colson Montgomery.
Sure.
There are other guys down there, and they're going to come in waves. They're not going to come all at once. Chase Mydroth, I honestly think he'll be here as soon as the end of the month. I mean, he's everything you want. They don't have a leadoff hitter right now. They've been experimenting. Vargas has been up there. Maton's been up there. They don't really have that prototypical guy, and he is that guy. I mean, you're talking about an on-base percentage of near 500. He had one over 400 last year in 120-plus games at AAA. He's kind of shown who he is, and it looks like, I was told by a couple sources with the White Sox that later in spring training that it almost looked like Chase Mydroth was like trying to get hits rather than just getting up there and doing his thing. And it was a kind of a red flag to say, hey, just go down there and be you. Burn it up, let the stat line be the stat line, and come back up here and don't try to be anything that you're not. Just go.
You got to have an identity, man. Like, yeah. I that's what messed me up the most. It's like, man, do they want me to hit for power, get on base? It's like, dude, just go have good at bats. And I'll tell you, Guff, like those guys in Charlotte, don't think for a second they're not looking every single day at that stat line to see, hey, man, like Tim Elko's like, man, they're not swinging it very well at first base or that DH position or whatever, right? And, depending on who's struggling, if they're not putting good at-bats together, it's next guy in line. So I think that is going to be the main focus of everything we're going to be talking about this year is like who's next? Like who's going to come up and set the tone?
Yeah, really well said about identity. And it's funny you say that because I feel like this team has one. And the last couple of years, I honestly don't know what the identity of either one of the Pedro Grifol teams were. He managed completely separate the 2 seasons that we talked about, the play fast and the acronym. He was like trying to make a team something that wasn't, and never really like bought into him, and vice versa. Like in 23, he never really bought into them. Let the leaders lead.
Yeah.
I asked Will Venable specifically about identity, and if I could like write an answer what I wanted to hear, I would have written what he said, and I want to play it for you because it's everything that you and I have been talking about what we expect from a Will Venable team. And then I asked him this. Wins and losses aside, you kind of always want your team to have an identity. What will the identity of this team be?
Yeah, well, we talked about some things specifically that are really important to us, and certainly, defensively, first step stuff, on the bases, maximizing our secondary leads, those types of things. But then, it really is about going out and competing, and going out and see, we know executing plays is important, but like how we go about doing it matters, right? We're not going to make every play, and that's all right. We'll continue to work, but we need to go out and play hard and compete. And if that's the one thing that you watch from us and take away, then I feel good about it.
Oh baby, I mean, literally, like I said, that answer is not going to make Sox fans necessarily like jump up and down and go, "Oh, it's not about wins and losses." It's about how they do it, right? We've talked about like how many games they pissed away by throwing the boot in the ball and throwing it all over the field the last couple of years. And at least if they lose 4-2, that it's going to be clean. I will say this, not every game's been perfect, but the defensive play, how clean the game looks, And then there was one thing that specifically made me tweet about Will Venable and how it already looks different. I want to say it was Monday against the Twins. Let's call it Monday against the Twins. Jacob Amaya, he's got runners on first and second. He tries to bunt and he fails to lay one down. On the next pitch, BA, double steal. Next pitch. I was like, that was like a green, like, holy hell. That's my first, like, I got that. I understand you. Like, that guy's not going to execute it. Screw it. We're going to do it anyway. And
you remember my old manager would have been like, hey, if I would have done that, they would have said, there is no sign. You're bunting again, and you're going to keep bunting. And if you can't, you're out. So,
but I love, like, we're going to do this, whether you've executed or not. We are going to execute this as a team. We're going to be aggressive. But I played that soundbite because I didn't think you had heard it. And he went into details about defensively and running the bases and doing the little things right. And even if it doesn't, and I liked how he said, we're not going to make every play, but the process is going to be the same.
Sure. You know, our identity was, especially you being a White Sox fan, you look back, you're like, they called us the grinders. We were grinding it out. And we did, right? We were friends and we played the game the right way. But you look back, you're like, we also had like 4 guys on the team, 5 guys on the team with 20 plus homers, a couple with 40, you know, Jermaine, Paul, Creedy, AJ. And so you ask yourself, as a former player, and even the current ones, you got to have some self-reflection going, okay, if I'm not going to hit 20 home runs, you better be able to bunt. Yeah. And you better be able to, like, get the signs right. And so to your point, that you got to be able to do that stuff. If you're not willing to do it, they're going to be calling other guys up.
And there's going to be some guys called up soon. I mean, you got Rojas and Talkman, who both were on the IL to start the season. Both are already close to coming back. Talkman's been in AAA on a rehab assignment, which is going to already create interesting roster decisions. There's not a lot of wiggle room with something. Like, the outfielders really have no options. I mean, you're talking about guys like Jankowski's and the Slaters. You're probably going to see some DFAs soon. You know, Brooks Baldwin has options, but he's actually been playing. He's been a Swiss Army knife. He's played 4 different positions already. He hit the ball out of the ballpark. He's been driving runs in, but sometimes it comes down to being the only guy with options. We're going to start to see some roster turnover. I think the bullpen guys are going to have a little bit longer of a leash in the early going as we're trying to sort through this and figure it out. Look, we've gone through the rotation one time and we're sitting here having a podcast about our early impressions. But I think it was important to do this early impressions, because if we would have gone through the first week and it looked, and they haven't won a series, right? They've lost 4 of their last 5 as we tape this, but it just, the overall tone and the style of play that matches what Will Venable just said seems to be on point of what we want to see going forward for the next 156.
Yeah. And we talk about, they're 2 and 4 still in first place, right? I know as a former player and at our old team, you don't really look too much into that. Now, the media reminds you every day of what your record is, but I think, I can't remember exactly when it was, but early on in my career, I remember it was probably going just the beginning, end of July, early August. And, you know, and you look at, you know, you try to be optimistic. You look at your teammates like, yeah, man, we're only out like 12 games or maybe down 10 games. And you have one of the veteran guys look at you and kind of give you the look of like, it's over, man. Like that team's not going 20 and 40 over the next 60 games. So unless you think we have a horseshoe up our ass or you're going to hit 40 homers, let's just compete and see what happens.
Couple of bigger picture questions here, before we put a bow on this one. Anything from a just overall Major League Baseball perspective that jumped out at you? I mean, the Dodgers are 8-0, and they're just like, even though they're the quote unquote super team, 8-0 is like, that's different.
It's unheard of, man.
But the Padres are right there, dude. Padres are right there. The Padres are undefeated too. And it's crazy because I was telling you before we came on, the Colorado Rockies have played 5 games. They're 5.5 games out of first place.
That I've never heard anything like that before. Like, that's got to be the most disheartening thing. And if you're in the NL West, if you're a grown up and you've been around the game of baseball, it's over. I mean, the Dodgers are going to win that. The Padres are going to get that first wild card spot.
The Padres are trying to say, hold my beer. Yeah.
Yeah. That's okay because they're both going to go take it or take whatever one you want. We're going to be the 1-2 punch in here. But my gosh, I mean, that's so disheartening, even for the Giants and Colorado. Arizona always finds a ways to sneak in there. Maybe they'll get that second wild card bid. But Giants and Rockies, it's going to be tough. It's going to be like how much whoever's up for a contract year on either of those teams, that's going to be the focal point of their season.
I mean, dude, the Giants are 5-1. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what's like. They're 5. The entire West, 4-2, 5-1, 7-0, and then you got the poor Rockies fans out there. First defending champion in Major League Baseball history to start a season 8-0. And then I wanted to ask you just this torpedo bat phenomenon. Look, it's different, and I've read about the torpedo bats and what the intention is, and the intention is to create bat speed. That the intention is that through the zone, you're adding miles per hour to your swing, which is then creating faster exit velocity, better launch angle, et cetera, et cetera. And the demand, it's a copycat league. Sure. What's going on in New York? Why do they have 20 home runs? Let's get an order of these bats over here. Some people are saying the ball feels different again, looks different. That might be a little bit juiced. We've seen a lot of home runs hit, but the torpedo bat phenomenon, can you compare it to anything that, like when you played, that there was some kind of buzz about something specific? And the second part of that, can there be a difference on the barrel of the bat and the sweet spot of the bat?
Well, I mean, shoot, it does it sound gimmicky on the surface? Sure. But my only argument to that, who anybody who has a problem with what's going on with that, there's 50 different models of baseball bats. The C271, Konerko used that. The barrel is really small. I know Paul liked it because it had more of a whippier feel. AJ used a 243. That barrel extends more towards the label, so it gives them a little more wiggle room. AJ preferred that type of bat. Jermaine Dye used like a Diablo bat, which is similar to a 271 with a different handle. Weird, I know all this stuff. So, but again,
I love it. That's why I asked you.
But if I could go back in time, and they said, "Hey, BA, this isn't illegal. We can actually put the bulk of the barrel towards the label if you want to let the ball travel, get a little deeper." Shit, I would be doing that at Yankee Stadium. You could take a piss out to right field from home plate. So if I'm getting jammed and Anthony Volpe's hitting home runs, I mean, shit, I'd have had 10 by now. If you could, throw a rock from home plate to right field there. So again, unless it's illegal, then there's got to be some language in the bylaws with MLB to prevent that stuff. But again, I think if Anthony Volpe has a Brady Anderson type year and hits 50 home runs, they might look into it. But
they might look into Volpe more than the bat, though.
Yeah, well, he's not a very big guy, so I don't think he's going to be popped for anything like bad. But I don't mind it. Shoot, I'd have tried it too. I look back at my career, but man, I should have tried some other stuff in order to hang around a little bit longer.
Here's what I'll say though, dude. Aaron Judge is not using a torpedo bat.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
At the end of the day, you still got to be a damn good, talented baseball player. It's not just about some guy's not going to hit 42 because he's got a torpedo bat. Kyle Tucker is one of the best hitters in the game, and he's out there hitting. He hit 4 consecutive days with a home run. Dudes are dudes, man. It's more than a torpedo bat.
Cap, I'm sure Cap let you know Tucker hit another home run too, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Now everyone's breathing easy on the north side now that they realized they were freaking out when he was 0 for 17 in spring. And I said, hey, is he playing every day? That's what matters. These guys will be okay.
If you look back, not always, but if you look back at some of the most unbelievable years that some players had, I remember in 05, Rowan had like an awful spring training. I mean, at least it was for a while. He may have had a little bit higher trajectory and finished strong, but him, Konerko, I've seen have some atrocious spring trainings. And then the year starts and it's like they had a career year. So spring training doesn't mean shit.
No, I think it's good that the Cubs, when talking about the Cubs, like their schedule in April is pretty brutal, but they're a team that's trying to go places. And the White Sox had more of a soft landing spot to start the year. They get the Angels and the Twins. I saw a stat like since August 18th of last year, the 3 worst records in baseball were the Angels, the Twins, and then the White Sox. So the fact that the White Sox got that kind of handed to them out of the gate, look, I don't believe in like tough schedule, hard schedule. You get teams sometimes you catch a break that a guy's not pitching, some guy's on the IL, whatever. the people who are arguing about a hard schedule, take a look a month ahead. I guarantee it gets lighter. But looking at the White Sox, they got kind of their first turn through the AL Central without the Royals. They're going to the Tigers. They're going to the Guardians. They come home for another series before another big road trip. And they got the Red Sox a couple of times. To me, as we put a bow on this one, it's just about going forward, keeping this first week. I know that put the wins and losses, to take the 2 and 4 out of the equation, because there's momentum. There's momentum in the clubhouse. They're taking it to the field. If the consistency can be part of the additive, then you're talking about a different conversation. But I think what they've built here in the first week, I'm saying pump the brakes. I don't want to get too far ahead. It's a week. But I like what I've seen thus far from this version of the 2025 White Sox.
No doubt. I mean, you said about the Cubs schedule. They've had a tough schedule. I said, what? You mean they're playing in the big leagues still? Like this year, the Dodgers will get swept this year. I don't know about who, but they're going to get swept. The White Sox are going to sweep somebody this year. So, my college coach used to always have this saying, BA, somewhere in America, someone's making that play. Somewhere in America, like, hey, somewhere a team this year is gonna sweep the Dodgers. Like, why don't we do it? So again, you want the White Sox to play well. It's always good to have series wins, but go sweep somebody and see what happens.
BA, you're the best, dude. I hope we're talking about more of this going forward, because it's a lot more fun to talk about than some of the shit we were talking about in the offseason.
No doubt, man.
For Brian Anderson, I'm Ryan McGuffey. We appreciate you guys watching, listening to this version of the White Sox Recap Podcast, available anywhere you get your podcasts on audio, and here on the Recap Network on YouTube. BA, Ryan McGuffey. Catch us next time on the White Sox Recap Podcast.